City Council meeting to order. Will you please join me in the flag salute? I should mention that Mayor Benetti, Councilor Farmer, Councilor Stevens, and Councilor Matthews are all online tonight, and Councilor DeNova will be unable to attend the meeting. The next item on the agenda is public comments. If anybody has a comment for something that isn't on the agenda, please come forward now. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, the consent calendar. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is retirement recognition of Debbie Erler.
I'll do that up at the podium if Debbie will meet me at there. Well, Debbie has been a fixture at this city hall for over 34 years. Debbie started with the city of Coos Bay in July of 1988. She started in the public safety department, working for both police and fire, doing clerical work for them, and then was later promoted to secretary. And then she transferred departments to the community development or community services department, which later became the the public works and community development department. She held several positions in this department, being promoted several times. She started off as planning tech, codes enforcement, codes planning specialist, codes planning technician, planner 1, and planner 2. Debbie is well known in the community for her great public service attitude and get things done attitude. She was a gem here at the city, and we're going to miss her a lot. And I know I've heard from a lot of our customers they're going to miss having her at the front counter. And her experience and knowledge have been valuable not only to our government, but to our community. And what we'd like to do is present you with this plaque for your service. It says, presented to Debbie Erler, Planner 1. Planner 2, excuse me, in recognition and sincere appreciation of your many years of exceptional work, outstanding service, and commitment to the community. The City of Coos Bay, July 1988 through October 2022. Thank you, Debbie.
Debbie, your time commitment to the city has been commendable, and I thank you for your service. I wish you the best in your retirement. Council, do you have anything to say to Debbie?
I'd like to chime in as somebody who has knocked on Debbie's door countless times through the projects that I've been a part of in my time as a young business owner. Debbie has been exceptional at helping myself and I think this entire community through navigating what can be very stressful application processes and various things. And I want to say personally, thank you, Debbie, for all the hard work that you did helping me along. And I really recognize how much time and energy you gave to me individually, and I know that you did that for a lot of other people. And so on behalf of the council, I'd also like to thank you for just the amazing amount of service that you've given to this community. We're going to miss you, and you have been just such a great presence in our city hall. So thank you.
Well, Debbie, I just want to thank you for the 34 years that you've put in with the city of Coos Bay. Started in 1988. I've had the pleasure of serving with you numerous times, the second round. And you, as Carmen stated, you've helped so many citizens, and the council and the planning commission, and I can just go on, and you won't be able to be replaced. But I want to thank you for your outstanding services, everyone else has mentioned, for the city and also for the citizens. And I wish you the best on your next endeavor in life. And come back and visit us once in a while, and give us some pointers, I guess, in the right direction. Anyway, take care.
Or you can come and poke me for a beer this time and bend my ear.
There you go. Anybody else? Anybody in?
I would just like to say, if Sarah's going to talk, go ahead, but if not, I have a comment. I just wanted to say, from a different perspective, I think I've known you all of those years, and as the liaison to the Coos Bay Downtown Association, I was a board member and a co-chair of the Economic Vitality Committee. And it's already been mentioned, the wealth of your knowledge has been invaluable to not only the city, but to the citizens that we serve. And just having you there, guiding us through the facade process and the historic preservation, and just knowing you as the great person that you are personally, you will be sorely missed. But we appreciate all of the service that you've given to this community and its citizens.
Sarah, did you want to say something or not? Okay. Again, thank you, Debbie. And again, enjoy your retirement. I'm a little jealous myself. Okay, moving on. Item number 5, approval of Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation. Chief?
Yeah, so the month of October is known for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And what we're going to do here tonight is we're going to have Rachel Espy come up to the podium. She's the director of the SAFE project. She's going to give us an overview of what the SAFE project is about, and then she's actually going to read the proclamation.
Hello. Sorry, I'm shorter than everyone else. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
perfect. So my name is Rachel Espy. I'm the executive director of the SAFE project, which hopefully, as you all know, is the local domestic violence and sexual assault agency here in Coos County. We provide emergency services and crisis intervention to survivors of all genders here in Coos County. And I was just going to read you all a little bit of our aggregate data from last year. So these statistics represent the clients that our agency served in 2021. These numbers represent the real lives of adults and children that have been impacted by domestic and sexual violence in our own communities. These are not just numbers, these are survivors. So in 2021, we served 817 survivors. 749 of those survivors were adults, and 68 of those survivors were children. We provided 143 adults with shelter, 54 children with shelter, and 18 pets with shelter. We provided 3,104 shelter bed nights in 2021, and over 9,000 meals provided to survivors in 2021. So as you all can see from the numbers, your support and the proclamation means so much to all the survivors that we serve, to know that our community cares about the struggles that they're facing. So thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it. And onward to the proclamation. It says, whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels, and whereas domestic violence is widespread and affects over 4 million Americans each year, and whereas 1 in 3 Americans have witnessed an incident of domestic violence, and whereas children that grow up in violent homes are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average, And whereas domestic violence costs the nation billions of dollars annually in medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity. And whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this heinous crime. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy services and assistance to victims.
Now therefore, I, Rob Miles, City Council President of the City of Coos Bay, and on behalf of Mayor Joe Benetti, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge citizens of Coos Bay to work together to eliminate domestic violence from our community.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll make a motion that we approve the proclamation.
Is
Domestic
Drew
violence.
second it?
Did you get a second? I'll second if not.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Rachel, thank you for the work you do. I think we all look forward to a day where you don't have a job anymore. So.
Not in my lifetime. Okay. Thank you.
Item number 6 is approval of Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation. Is Andrew here yet, or should we move
No,
on?
may I ask that we just move this down and move to the next item?
Yes, we can do that. That would bring us to item number 7, public hearing to consider a proposed solid waste franchise rate adjustment. Approval would require adoption of Resolution 22-27. And this is Roger?
Actually,
Nicole,
I'm going to
sorry.
take that. Thank you. So each year, typically, the local company who provides solid waste collection for the city potentially requests an increase to those rates, and that's based on the CPI. Historically, they've never asked for the full increase up to the full CPI, and that's very much what they're doing again this year. They based their rate this year on the 2021 CPI, which is at 6 point, sorry, I should have had that up.
6.3, I think.
I didn't put that in my staff report.
6.3.
Well, it was over 6%, and they're asking for 85% of it, which works out to 5.4%, and that results in roughly $1.28 per 35-gallon can. This process, per our ordinance, requires that we hold a public hearing. This was advertised in the world so that the public would be aware that we'd be talking about this. After that public hearing, then you can open it to questions and you know, your option to take action. We do have a member here from the company who, if he would like, could speak, or if you guys had any questions, could also answer any questions you may have.
Do either one of you want to speak before we open the public hearing?
Good evening, Council President and Council and Mayor online. Yeah, basically what we're asking for is 85% of the CPI West for 2021, although now inflation is up to probably around 8%, so we're actually asking for the 2021 CPI or percentage of it. It's going to be $1.28 per month for a basic 35-gallon residential cart and $1.62 per commercial container yard. So that's how we've always calculated in the past. And, you know, I might add that this does include your recycling service every month. So So it's all kind of wrapped up into one thing. And you can see by the sheet that we provided to the council that how the adjustment goes up with the size of cart service that you want to have at your home. So that's all I have. So
Thank you, Bill. Before I open the public hearing, council, do you have any questions for Bill or Nicole?
We had a rate comparison.
Yeah, I was gonna just step in and say, that's one thing that we do each year when they come to us for the request, is we kind of do a survey of the area. And it's kind of a little bit far. I mean, we even contact into Eugene to find out what their rates, to see where this kind of lands. And you can see by that, we're kind of at the lower range of those rates. Some of them are pretty significant increase above where this rate is at.
I thought I might provide some context of why this is actually before you. The city of Coos Bay, much like most cities, we actually regulate or limit the number of solid waste haulers within the city, and we do it for a very specific reason. One, we try to limit the heavy truck traffic on residential streets, but we also require that anybody who wants to pay for the service be allowed to get the service, and that's one way to do that. And then in that way, we can also have the authority to help regulate the price on that. So generally, each year when they come before you, you take a look at that. And the rate study is important because it shows us, one, that they're really not, because they're not asking for this full CPR or better, and the fact that our rates are within the norm of other jurisdictions provides some comfort to past councils and to our citizens that they're being charged a fair rate.
Thank you, Roger.
And just one other question. Our rate includes, because of the size of the city, includes the recycling, which some of the smaller jurisdictions that have lower rates, they actually pay extra for that.
correct.
Recycling service.
The city of Bandon's a good example. It's under 4,000 people. Actually, I think it just recently hit 4,000. And it's a subscription service. So if they want to have recycling, they let us know, and then we provide the container for them. Lakeside's also the same way.
So that average of 2582 of the jurisdictions that you looked at actually would be a higher number. And we're still well under that
For some,
2582.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the other thing the rates include, if I'm not wrong, it also includes a small fee for household hazardous waste. But almost all the cities and the two counties, Coos and Curry County, participate in that. There are other counties that don't.
Right, that's 28 cents a month
Correct.
for the residential. That's included in that household hazardous waste, so people can bring their hazardous waste to the Beaver Hill disposal site whenever they have an event basically for free. So,
Hey, Bill, it's Joe Benetti. You also provide yard pickup, twice a year, is it?
Yeah.
Yard debris?
yeah, we're actually just finished Coos Bay and we're in North Bend. Actually, twice a year we provide a free brush pickup for the citizens of Coos Bay, whether they're on garbage service or not. And we allow for free 5 cubic yards per household or per address. And we actually don't charge for that. That's just part of the service that we provide to the citizens of Coos Bay. So.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
You bet.
Appreciate it. And now I will open the public hearing on the proposed solid waste franchise rate adjustment. Does anybody have a public comment on this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I move that we adopt Resolution 22-27 approving adjustment in collection rates for the solid waste collection franchise holders.
Second. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2227 approving an adjustment in collection rates for the solid waste collection franchise holders. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I see Mr. Brainerd in the audience, so we will move back to item number 6, approval of Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation.
I'll take that one. Though Columbus Day has been celebrated as a national holiday since 1937, commemorating the voyages to the New World of Christopher Columbus, many individuals acknowledge that the lands of the New World had been inhabited by indigenous people for many lifetimes. As such, and to recognize the many contributions made to the greater Coos Bay community by indigenous people native to these area lands, a proclamation is being presented before the council to formally denote the second day in November as Indigenous People Day. We have the pleasure of a good friend of mine, Andrew Brainerd, a member and an employee of the Confederated Tribe of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw, I'm going to say that wrong, Indians, who's going to actually read the proclamation for you.
Come on up, Andrew.
And I will say this is kind of an impromptu presentation.
Thank you, council, Roger, and staff. It's an honor to be here this evening, to be here to do this. It's been a long time for this to come, and I'm so honored as a tribal member to be here tonight and for the city of Goose Bay. So, whereas the holiday known as Columbus Day commemorates the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus and his voyages to the New World, and whereas Columbus Day has been a federal holiday since 1937, and whereas the city of Coos Bay recognized the indigenous peoples of the lands that would later become known as the Americas have occupied these lands since time immemorial, and whereas the city recognized the fact that Coos Bay is built upon the homelands and villages of the indigenous people of this region, and whereas the city recognizes and values the many contributions made to our community through the indigenous peoples' knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, arts, and the deep cultural contribution. And whereas the city understands that to help enhance the understanding of indigenous people, they, with other government entitled organizations and other public institutions, should include an acknowledgement of its American Indian history experiences. And whereas the Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And
now, therefore, I, Rob Miles, City Council President of the City of Coos Bay, and on behalf of Mayor Joe Benetti, do hereby proclaim recognition of the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, and encourage other businesses, organizations, and public entities to recognize the Indigenous Peoples Day. Be it further proclaimed in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day and the past and ongoing contributions made to our community by Indigenous peoples, governmental flags of the Coquille Indian Tribe, the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians shall be flown along the Coos Bay Boardwalk. Thank you, Andrew.
thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself as to why you're here tonight?
Okay. My name's Andrew Brainerd. As was said, I'm a tribal member from the Confederated Tribes. I'm Millet Coos. And it is an honor to be here this evening in front of a lot of friends, and I consider family as well. And I continue to represent the tribes in both cities of Coos Bay and North Bend as well. And I'm just so happy that this is finally happening. and that the tribes are being honored. All 3 tribes are being honored. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Council, do you have any comments? Hearing none, how would you like to proceed?
I move we approve the Indigenous Peoples' Day Proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Indigenous Peoples' Day Proclamation. Any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andrew, for coming tonight and doing that. We appreciate it.
I could share that the 2 flags that we do have will be going up on Monday.
That's good to hear. That'll make Councilor DeNovo happy as well. Okay, where are we? Item number 8, consideration to award construction contract for Pump Station 6 and 9 upgrades. That's it, you.
Yep. So Pump Station 6 is located at the northwest corner of Coos Avenue and South 5th Street. It was originally constructed in 1960. It had an upgrade in 1974, with the last upgrade in 1991. Pump Station 9 is located easterly of the intersection of Montana Avenue and Southwest Boulevard in Inglewood. It was originally constructed in 1966 and then upgraded to include a more robust control system in 1974. Since that time, there has been minimal additional work performed aside from routine maintenance at each of these pump stations. Within the last few years, the level of maintenance has increased to a point that is no longer feasible to keep up with the required maintenance. Over the last year, city staff has been working with the Dyer Partnership to prepare plans and specifications for the complete reconstruction of these pump stations. The pump stations were bundled in an attempt to obtain more competitive bids. The city advertised for bids on August 10th, and we opened bids on September 12th. Only one bid was received. That was from Pacific Excavation for a total of $3,240,000. The engineer's estimate for Pump Station 6 was $1.6 million, and the bid was $2,006,000. It's approximately 25% over the engineer's estimate. The engineer's estimate for Pump Station 9 was $800,000, but the bid was $1,234,000, which is 50% over the engineer's estimate. If you total the 2 engineers' estimates for those pump stations, the bid exceeds the engineer's estimate by 35%. While the bids exceed the engineer's estimate, it's not believed by staff or the engineer that bidding this project at a later time would yield lower bids. In fact, it might be higher due to escalation. As such, staff is recommending council consider awarding this project to Pacific Excavation with a 15% contingency. So the projects that we have on the books for this year are Pump Station 6 and 9, and these are the projects that aren't grant or loan funded. And so Pump Station 6 and 9, Pump Station 12 and 13 upgrades, and then the repair of the 9th Avenue Lagoon Road. We have to do Pump Station 12 and 13. It's in pretty much the same state as 6 and 9. So what we're proposing is that we push the 9th Avenue Lagoon Road to the next fiscal year. As you know, this is a council goal, but I think it's probably the wise thing to do. I also included with your packet a list of all of our pump stations. And it should be noted that since 2016, 3 major pump stations have been upgraded. If we do PS 6 and 9, we'll be up to 5, and we're really going to be on schedule for that one a year, especially when we get 12 and 13 done. So the action requested: if it pleases the council, award the construction contract for Pump Station 6 and 9 to Pacific Excavation for $3,726,000, which includes a 15% contingency.
Thank you, Jennifer. Council, do you have any questions or comments for Jennifer?
I have one. Jennifer, have we worked with this company before?
We have. They built Pump Station 1, which is our largest pump station in our whole system, and they did a great job.
Okay. I'm just concerned about the bids coming in so high and engineer of record being off that much. So, I mean, was there an explanation of what was missed with the engineer's estimate?
The bidding climate. It's very unpredictable.
So you don't think that we should hold on and try to go out and get a lower bid at this time?
It's not our recommendation. The pump stations are really in bad shape, and we're not seeing the bids going down. So,
Isn't there,
Okay, thank you.
isn't there some pretty serious increased cost with the maintenance of those because of their condition?
correct?
And if I'm hearing you correctly, this is just going to push other projects down the road. It's not going to affect the rate increase, is it?
That's why we're proposing to push the other project down the road so it doesn't affect the proposed, is it 6.5% every year? Yes.
Any other questions? Carmen, are you?
Just looking at the engineer's recommendation, even though it is over their estimate, they know what's going on. I know I've made estimates before and been way off, so I'd like to give a little bit of leeway. I mean, it's always good to hear an explanation as to why it was off so far, but these are trying times when it comes to construction, so we got to get this done. So I'm ready to move forward. So with that being said, I'd like to move that we award the construction contract for pump stations 6 and 9 to Pacific Excavation for $3,726,000, which includes a 15% contingency.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the construction contract for pump station 6 and 9 to Pacific Excavation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
You're next too, aren't you?
Yes.
Item number 9, questions for council for the draft 2023-2033 Parks, Recreation Facilities, and Cultural Resources Plan.
Okay. So the draft 2023-2033 Parks, Recreational Facilities, and Cultural Resources Plan was presented at last week's work session. The current version of the Parks Master Plan is in draft format and still needs to undergo revisions and refinement. Prior to the Parks Commission taking a deep dive into the draft document, staff is seeking guidance from council. The draft has several text boxes in the document in where questions and/or direction was requested. Council requested staff come back at a regularly scheduled council meeting to present the questions and obtain guidance from council. So I have the 6 questions here. Would you like me to go through each one and then we have a discussion, or you want me to go through all 6 first?
I think we should go through each one.
Each one?
Do you
Okay,
guys
great.
agree?
Yes.
So the first one, it's if you have access to your draft Parks Master Plan, it's on page 19. It's regarding Appendix B, guidelines for new development. So consideration of new facilities was not a part of council's directive. The surveys noted an interest in new facilities. If council wants to consider new facilities in the future, Appendix B in the draft master plan would provide that guidance. The question for council is, do we retain or omit Appendix B in the draft master plan?
Council, do you have any comments on this question? I will just say that, I still don't believe that we should be looking at doing new projects when we need to take care of the current parks. That being said, I do think that when I was reading it, it does say in there, if there's some unexpected funding available, then we would move forward with a new project. So I think it would be okay to include this in there as long as there is that caveat.
I agree. Seeing what has happened with the announcement of the Bangor School, and you're familiar with that just in your day-to-day job, I think we need to be open to the possibility that there may be something that we just don't know. I mean, this is it's not a long-term, but it's a longer-term plan, and I would like future councils to have that flexibility with the recommendation from the Parks Commission. I think it should be retained.
Anybody else have any comments on this matter?
I agree with your comments, Rob and Stephanie. Leave that availability and open. But I agree with what you've also said, Rob. I think we have some things that we need to take care of it and upgrade the parks that we do have at this time. But I think they need the availability in the future if something comes up.
Carmen?
I agree. It's always good to have something kind of a wish list, if you will. That makes sense to me. I can't remember, is this document addressing future funding streams as well?
Yes, it is. Potential.
I think I'd like to have a robust discussion at some point, but about funding streams and new funding streams, revenue streams for the park system. And I have some ideas, but I'll probably just deal with that on the Parks Commission side, and then we can have that discussion when the master plan is represented to the council.
Okay, unless Drew or Sarah has any opposition, I think you have your answer to question number 1.
I have no additional input.
I agree with what was said.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, question 2, page 8, the Empire Hollering Place Bayfront Boardwalk. Section 2.3.3.d titled Future Trail Potential is included in the draft plan. This section would remain and include a proposed Westerly Bay Boardwalk, or it can be removed. Our question is, should section 2.3.3.d remain or be omitted in the draft plan?
Council?
Well, I think it should be omitted. The Hollering Place, we're talking about private investment. We weren't talking about doing this publicly or the city doing it. So I don't want to add that. Again, I want to be conscious of what we do have and maintaining what we have. I think trying to take this on or hitting it there is taking us away from the parks. That's my feeling.
Sarah?
Mayor Benetti said that beautifully. I agree.
Me too.
Yeah, and there's also, we're going to be working on an Empire master plan, and I'm pretty sure the Hollering Place will be a part of that. So I think this would be redundant, in my opinion.
Well, especially since that plan itself they haven't identified the boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to note.
Okay, I have direction. Question number 3 has to do with the pedway on page 14. In 2012, the city explored potential design options for the preway or pedway. Question, is there interest in expanding this section regarding the preway to include or indicate future design development of a cohesive public plaza?
No, I can start off. I don't believe we should. Now, this goes back even before this council, or I came on in 2016. The council prior to that had addressed this and moved forward in trying to do it and decided not to. And we explored what they had done, and we as a council decided not to move forward on it again. I think it was more than we wanted to do at the time. It was over $1 million, maybe even up to close to 2, depending on what design you chose. And I think that we need to focus on the parks at this time. And maybe it's something down the road, but maybe we would address it through the urban renewal district or another fashion. But we passed on this before, so I just can't see us addressing it or putting in this plan.
I agree.
I agree with the mayor.
This is Drew. To me, the pedway, we've also had conversations about where else we might need space to expand the farmers market as it's been so successful, and overbuilding the pedway would get in the way of that if we wanted to choose. So in the scale of priorities, I would put that towards the end.
Likewise, I'm feeling pretty much the same. The mural project was great, and I like that, and it's an open space right now. If something comes along, an opportunity, I feel like we can discuss it at that time, but this is one of those projects that I don't feel like we need to put a lot of energy on unless there's, a council shift in terms of what we want to focus on, and that being the spot. Just my opinion.
I agree with everyone as well, so I think you have your direction on that
I
one.
do. Okay, fourth question. Page 11, Front Street Boardwalk. The survey noted the downtown boardwalk's value. This section in the draft master plan could be expanded to incorporate pieces of the Front Street Blueprint recommendations, the boardwalk plans at the History Museum, and the existing Coos Bay Village Boardwalk. These boardwalks at the History Museum and Coos Bay Village are not owned by the city. However, the public's use and connectivity provided will be a valuable visitor attraction and resident amenity. The question, should the master plan expand the discussion to include the boardwalk associated with the Front Street Blueprint recommendations, the boardwalk plans associated with the History Museum, and the existing boardwalk at the Coos Bay Village?
Again, I think this is being redundant because we just completed that Front Street blueprint, and I think everything that is needed is already included in that. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it.
Don't we
I agree
create,
with you, yeah.
don't we create
Go
an
ahead.
issue too of, something citywide when we start including sidewalks and things in a plan like that really isn't under the purview of parks? Okay.
Correct. And so, the boardwalk that's under the master plan and also the paved area these are public entity or public property. And if we start going down Front Street, we're getting into private development. And I just don't think we should be going down that road with the park system and the master plan.
I concur. I feel like if private developers and private property owners want to dovetail into the parks master plan with their own development, or the city council or the urban renewal agency wants to dovetail into existing park infrastructure, that makes sense on a case-by-case basis, but not necessarily falling under the purview of the master plan.
Okay.
I think unless anybody has opposition, I think you have your direction.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, page 17, private facilities not owned by the city. Section 2.4.3, titled Privately Owned Cultural Facilities, identifies cultural facilities not owned by the city that contribute to leisure and economic vibrancy. Question, should the master plan include privately owned cultural facilities?
Council?
Well, I'll weigh again. These are private, not public, and so I have a problem with that. And again, I'm not sure this, in my opinion, should get into the parks master plan. Excuse me. I think that what we've discussed in the past here and on these other ones, the parks are the main thrust at this time, and I think that's where our focus should stay.
Yeah, I would think if it was going to involve something private, they would go through the urban renewal channel, not the parks channel.
I tend to agree as well. I could see where including some of these in grant applications might be beneficial. I think that they don't fall under the parks plan because it looks like we're somehow obtaining some kind of
Control.
ownership over them, or claiming them in some way when they're not ours to claim. So I think they should be left out, unless I hear a better argument.
I agree. Roger?
Might I ask for clarification? We have other ones in there that we own, but we don't even operate. And I'm wondering about the wisdom of having those facilities in our Parks Master Plan, since we don't provide guidance to the operations of those facilities.
I was actually going to bring that up when they got to question number 6, because, I suppose it's all right to recognize that we have those cultural resources in our community, but while the city might own the property, they're actually run by their own boards, and we don't really have any control over what they do, so.
And some of these, I think that we've had by default, and what I mean by that is that these entities can't financially take them on themselves. If the city had an opportunity to have them be not or on their own financially, I think we would allow that. But that's the reasoning, and so I agree with Rod.
Any other comments?
I
Did you get an answer?
I'm I'm not sure, I guess, if we're working, okay, we can move on to number 6, which is
Do
where
you
I
feel like you
was
got
gonna.
the answer you needed?
Am
And,
I-
and the addendum that we don't include the others?
Yeah, and maybe some background. The cultural facilities actually, or resources, didn't actually appear until the 2013 plan. And at the time, I think the thought behind that was that while we owned them, and despite the fact that we didn't operate them, there was some belief that maybe we could make way for some future funding opportunities. It does get convoluted, even with the facilities that we own, such as the library, because it gives the illusion then part of the library falls under the Parks Commission's purview, when in reality there probably isn't one organization other than the library that actually has more oversight, and groups that that participate in that, such as the Friends of the Library, the Foundation, the Library Board. And to me, it's just a little cleaner.
I would like some clarification. So for cultural resources, what are we trying to define as a cultural resource in the park system then? Does anybody have a definition of that?
Good question.
Would that be something along the lines of if we had like a memorial, like the Fireman's Memorial or something like that?
Yes, and there is one other thing I would be bringing up at the end, that one of the assets that's not in the parks master, or in the parks, I guess, list of parks, is the Fireman's Memorial, and I have a firm belief that it should be. Not only is it considered part of the park and it's a place to go, but we also need to provide a tool that we're missing out there, and that is the ability to trespass someone when they repeatedly violate rules, city ordinances, or state laws, just as we are able to do in any park.
Would that
That makes
include any
sense.
kind of a historical cemetery or anything like that as well?
Yeah. And maybe as far as the cultural piece, maybe it should go back to the Parks Commission for consideration of whether to add in cultural resources, and should they desire to do so, maybe they can come back and bring an explanation to the council as why they should be included.
That would be good.
So right now, the Fireman's Memorial, it falls under the parks.
It currently
Department?
doesn't, but it should, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess it's really, I mean, for me, I would like to see certain city-owned assets fall under one department or the other, but what department would it fall under at this point in time?
You know, I believe the care of the memorial falls under two different departments. It falls under the fire department, but also is assisted by the Public Works Department.
Okay.
I think the reality is it's a sacred place. It's a valuable resource, and I think being within the Parks Master Plan is a proper place.
I just would add on to that, out of all the comments that I have received, that is one of the most frequent that I get from the public. And I can see where the value would be to put that memorial into this parks plan.
So that makes total sense to me. With these other city-owned assets, though, where are those being, I guess, overseen, in what department? For, like, say, the art museum and the Egyptian theater, those just standalone?
They are standalone agreements, and we do have agreements with the Egyptian Theater, with the Art Museum, with the Sun Museum, and with the Railroad Museum. We have management agreements with them. We do provide maintenance, depending on which site, capital improvements, and that's generally with the Urban Renewal Department agency.
Gotcha. All right, that makes sense.
And those entities all have boards that, and directors for each of them that give oversight. And so I think they're in a good spot to continue to do that in that fashion.
So we
Yeah,
kinda-
it's just nice to have classifications on where they're coming from or who's watching over, you know, focused on them. Would like to hear a little bit more update from some of those boards on a annual basis, I guess. I don't think I've heard anything from the art museum since I've been a counselor, but it'd be nice to get it just to check in to see how that's going on. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but Railroad Museum, we've heard from them. Egyptian Theater, I know they got their own thing, and that's great, but it would be nice to just hear an update every once in a while.
I agree. I think it'd be a good idea. Yeah. And connect with them and see what's going on, get some feedback.
Mm-hmm. That's all I have.
I think we've kind of gone off the rails here. So back to question number 5, I think we all agreed that private facilities not owned by the city should not be included. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess we're on to number 6, or did we cover that too?
Okay. The executive directors of the Coos Bay North Bend Visitor Convention Bureau, Coos Art Museum, Coos History Museum, Egyptian Theater, and Library Director could be invited to provide feedback regarding the expansion of the cultural resources discussion in the working draft. In addition, since the plan refers to cultural resources, comments from the Confederated and Coquel tribes could also be invited to provide feedback on the plan. The question is, should staff send draft plans to the entities listed above and ask for input?
Comments, anyone?
Well, we kind of covered it in 5 because we didn't believe that these entities should be part of the master plan. So I don't see why wouldn't we be getting feedback or input from. That doesn't mean they're not allowed to put in to the Parks Commission or the council. Either way, they can still give us input on if that's the case. The Coquel tribe and the Confederated tribe, I don't know, maybe we want to reach out to them. They do have some resources that they might be able to participate and give us some ideas on. So
I think as inviting the tribes is a really good option. That would be recommended from me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all these have already had the opportunity to respond to the survey, haven't they? But I do think that it's important to include the tribes in the discussion.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
Did we get it done?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 10, consideration to dissolve the homeless work group.
That's my turn again. Thank you. So we convened a homeless work group clear back in February of 2018. February 20th, 2018, council came together and recommended that we start this homeless work group. From that point, we added some folks from the community, different representatives from different entities that provided services or resources to the homeless within our community. Since that point, we've had several things that the homeless work group has recommended to council. That was included in the packet, but just a few of those. Depending on your position, one of the most significant might be the development of our community resource officer. We passed some ordinances kind of providing some regulations around usage of our right-of-ways. Also some regulations around towing and abandoned vehicles, camping, things like that, just to ensure kind of a nicer space in our community. That group, though, has been very effective. We are now like walking into a new era where we have a consolidated group or collaborative group with both the City of North Bend and the county related to the House Bill 4123 that was passed some legislation and some funding for pilot projects throughout the state of Oregon. We're one of the 8 pilot projects. The county took lead on that, and they are going to start a group and kind of manage from their point. So we had our last homeless work group in September, and at that work group we discussed this, potentially dissolving this group, and there was consensus that we do so. So the council rules require that we actually go through a formal process to dissolve the group. So that's what we're asking tonight, is for action on that.
Thank you, Nicole. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
It just, that was an impressive list of accomplishments, Nicole, and I'm curious what the homelessness work group's discussion was around ensuring that the city of Coos Bay's priorities continue to have front stage. I guess I'm concerned that if we dissolve the work group and it moves to the county, that there's not that laser focus on solutions for the city.
I think it was mixed emotions. You know, this group was very engaged in working on the issues, which we know through history and the legal process, there's a lot to try to, you know, work with. And, but I think, and Drew may be able to speak more from the collaborative group that Nicole discussed, they actually feel that there are individuals from our homeless work group that should be incorporated into this new group, and that there are things and people that can be added to that group that can actually tackle more problems and more come up with more solutions. So I think we've been working towards a goal, and we are at an elevated stage now. If I just take my perspective of what this group has done, where we're moving into the next phase, and we tackled as a city and as the homeless work group this process before anyone else was, and it's probably because of what this work group that the city and the council formulated that we were successful in achieving getting this grant, being one of 8 out of all of the cities in the state of Oregon. I think this is incredible testament to what this group has done and what the city has done. And it has affected change, and it has people talking, and that collaboration has been used by other cities, not just around us, but in other parts of the state, because of what this city has done. It's just that it's not that we're going to be left behind. I think the laser focus is going to continue to be on the city, on our neighbors and our county, and then also South County, which, you know, has never been brought into that picture, but they have attended those meetings because of the importance of what they're facing in their communities too. I think this is the next step. I don't know what you would say, Drew.
Yeah, I know part of the conversation at the last meeting I was at for this was wanting to expand the bench, essentially, to take some people that were on the Coos Bay homelessness work group, try and diversify the pool out of the individuals involved in the solutions, the brainstorming. And when I was sitting there the other day, just kind of running names off the top of my head, I came up with about 8 different groups that are all trying to work on this same one thing. So the group will come up with ideas. They'll be available. If we think some things would work better for Coos Bay, there's nothing to say we can't use them in Coos Bay. But in order to have any kind of efficiency in this solution, we're going to have to start consolidating some of these groups. And this is one of the ways we'll go about that. And then also getting to incorporate some of these other areas is one of the things that's important to me. Is we did launch the discussion. We have done a lot with the homelessness work group, but somewhere along the line, there are 7 cities in Coos County, and it can't all be one. So, county-wide solution, getting the other ones involved in that solution, it's got to happen some way. And then doing it in an efficient and cohesive manner. We can't have 8 groups running around trying to do the one thing and just tallying on a napkin. Myself, I'm sure there's plenty of others. So I think this is the right direction to go.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Stephanie. Anybody else have any comments?
Roger.
I would just share that we won't be, we're not in danger of being left out. One of the desired outcomes of Measure, or House Bill 4123, is that that coordinated work group will work together to come up with strategic plans. And if I remember reading it correctly, those strategic plans will be specific to the county and to each city.
Yep. I defer to the 2 counselors that have served on this for the past several years, and if they are in support of it, then I trust their opinion on the matter. Any other comments?
I just think it's time that we let it go. Going back, I remember we talked about this only being for 6 months, and here we're years down the road, and the accomplishments are fantastic, as we've heard. But I think the county might be able to take the next step. As Drew said, it'll be a concerted effort to move forward. And they're interacting with other communities and seeing what they're doing. I've been on some Zoom calls with them. And so LOC, the League of Oregon Cities, is taking this over, also kind to manipulate it where everyone's getting a chance to interact with all the other entities. And so I think together we can do a better job and maybe get some state funding that we desperately need to help us facilitate this and take care of some of the needs too. So, and if necessary, I mean, we can, and we will have people on this committee, and if necessary, we can start it up again and take over. But I think we need to give this a chance and let it run. And I'm sure, I have a feeling that it's going to be successful. So
I was just going to add that the fact that there were mixed emotions at that meeting tells you that those folks on that committee feel that they have affected change. And as the collaborative effort, it actually gives us a larger voice where the smaller group may not have that. So that larger voice is important as we move forward. And I think you have good representation on that what is it, a board or commission, or I'm not sure what we're calling it, but the county effort, the county-wide effort, I think it's going to be a bigger voice for us in Salem.
Yes.
Okay, if there's no further comment, how would you like to proceed? Do we need a motion on this?
I do.
I move that we dissolve the homeless work group.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to dissolve the homeless work group. Any further discussion?
I would just say
sorry, go ahead.
thanks for everybody that was serving on it, and really appreciate all that time and energy, and obviously your list of achievements is something to be proud of. So thank you, and I yield my support to the 2 counselors who were on that group, and I trust their judgment on this one.
That's what I was going to say, Carmen. So with that being said, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11 is City Manager's Report.
Yes, I'd like to start out by making a couple of introductions. First and foremost, I received an email from a young man named Harper Thompson, who is in our audience tonight. He's right here at the back. Harper reached out to me as a member of the Marshfield Key Club, and he said that he wanted to represent them as a representative from Marshfield to the council. As the council may recall, prior to COVID, it was common to have representatives from the Marshfield Key Club come to each council meeting, during which time they provided a short report on the activities of their club, which in the past have been many. In addition, they also provided the council updates on what was happening sports-wise and with the other clubs at Marshfield. Harper provided me a little information about him, and I was really impressed. He's 16 years old. He's a junior at the high school. He currently serves as Lieutenant Governor of District 76 of the Pacific Northwest District of Key Club International. He's also the president of Marshfield's CERT program, and also sits on the Coos Bay District Site Council. I'm not sure he has any time to study because he seems to be staying rather busy. He's also took it upon himself to attend a couple of council meetings and to meet with me so that he's prepared to fill that role as a representative from the school to the council. And anyway, I just want to welcome you, and we look forward to hearing from you in future meetings. In addition, I'd also like to introduce, and I do not want to butcher her name because, you know, you don't want to make a planner mad, but Chelsea Schnabel. Chelsea joined us just last week. I think she's been with us 4 days and is immersed herself into the planning world. You know that we are big on succession planning here at the city. We're constantly looking to who's going to fill future roles because the face of the organization continues to change, and it will always continue to change. So it wasn't all that long ago we proposed bringing on a third planner. In the unlikely event that either Carolyn and or Debbie decided to retire. Well, we didn't get that done quick enough because they're both retiring. Fortunate for us, when we went out looking for new talent, Chelsea applied. Our gain is North Bend's loss because she was serving as their planner. Let me see, she's been their planner since 2015. Prior to moving to North Bend, Chelsea worked in Colorado. She's a graduate from the University of Arkansas with a bachelor's degree in geography and a minor in communications. I'm not sure how good she is with geography, but she's excellent on communications. She's also a certified planner with the American Planning Association. And as an added bonus, something that we may need here on occasion, she's a certified floodplain manager. Anyway, we'd like to welcome you to the team.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I know there's many
Would you mind coming up to the mic for the people online? Thank you.
Yes. Hi, council, mayor, and then those out there in the world, Chelsea. I am happy to be here and working with the team, and we all know there's many exciting things happening, so I look forward to be part of that continued positive change. And thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that she got to attend today was a very exciting 2-hour meeting with the Public Works and Community Development Department, and that's where their management team gathers together with representative staff and my office, and we discuss where we're at in our current projects. I was going to share a few of those with you. I won't share the entire 2 hours because it really is about 2 hours worth of going over projects and those statuses. I am happy to report that the Visitor Information Center landscaping project will begin on the next Monday at that location. Once the landscaping project is complete, then we'll move forward and reseal both parking lots and restripe them. The new landscaping should be more attractive, and because we'll be installing irrigation system, it should stay green. Our Empire Fire Station parking lot and fencing project has been underway. It's my understanding that we'll be doing some paving out there next week, and we anticipate the entire project to be done sometime next month. The Empire Fishing Pier and Crab Dock, we're currently awaiting a couple of environmental approvals to move forward. Once that happens, we'll be moving into, and once the 30-day comment period has ended, we'll be moving into the bid process and we'll get the project underway. We anticipate that being completed this year. Updating of the Empire Fish Cleaning Station. If you've been out there, it looks horrible. It has definitely been used. While we could be moving forward with it today, the reality is if we do that, then use of the station will cease, and right now it's still fishing season. So as soon as that starts to end, then staff will go out there, and we're doing that with our own current staff. We do have a contract to demo the old Gary's Automotive Electric, which is located at the corner of Newmark and South Empire Boulevard. So that should be done within the next couple of months. We have a local company, I believe it was Johnson Rock, that secured that bid. That did not come to you for approval because it was within the staff spending allowance, and it was an approved project. The new replacement docks for both the Empire and East Side boat ramps will be shipped to us within a couple of weeks. Once that's here, then staff will coordinate with the State Marine Board, who wants to be present when they're put in. If you're driving up Central later tonight, I probably should tell you that the Central Avenue Road construction project begins tonight. So
What time? I got to go home.
yeah, you might want to take that alternate route. The projects on Wasson, Michigan, and North Fourth should be starting before the end of the month. Fifth and Bennett is currently underway. I'm sure the neighbors aren't too happy because some of that start time has been like at 5 in the morning. But that's because of the amount of work, and we're trying to get it done within the prescribed time period. One of the highlights on the Water Quality Division was a staff goal when taking over the city's wastewater utility was to try and reduce the levels of biosolids at the lagoon in Eastside. This year, staff applied 460 dry tons of biosolids, which equates to over 2 million gallons, onto area fields. That's in addition to the 436 tons last year. Where that's important is that exceeds over 4 years of what was accomplished by the third-party vendor who was doing it before. We're actually getting ahead, and staff has secured additional fields, and I believe it was an additional 200 acres, if I remember right. Thank you. And evidently interest is increasing. So that's helping. And associated to that, part of our DEQ permit is to periodically check that lagoon to check its, holding power. And happy to report there are no leaks in that. And I think the last thing on wastewater, our biggest project coming up for wastewater is Plant 1. Final design plans are currently at 60%. They expect them to be at 90% in November, and we're scheduled to go out to bid for the first phase of that upgrade next September. And I know that the mayor recently inquired with the staff about how much has the council spent or invested in infrastructure since the majority of this council came on in 2016. Shocking, $61 million has been invested in between streets, wastewater, and sidewalks since that period of time. All of those will pay dividends to our citizens for years to come. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Roger. Council comments? Drew?
Nothing today.
You guys are disappearing on me. Sarah?
Thanks, nothing from me.
Carmen?
I'd just like to once again thank Debbie for all of her hard work. That was, it's going to be sad to see her go, but really glad that we got to say goodbye today. I wish I was there in person. But I'd also like to welcome Chelsea to the team. It sounds like a great fit, and excited to work on new projects with her in the future. So it'll be exciting. And other than that, I don't really have much.
Thank you, Carmen. Mayor?
Yeah, just to follow up on Roger's comment, 61, we just spent another 3 million, or allocated another 3 million, so it brings it up to 64 million now, and growing in Plant 1. I also want to say hi to Harper and look forward to him coming to the City Council. And if you ever want us to, or myself, attend a meeting at the high school, I'll be glad to do so. Chelsea, I want to also welcome you and look forward to working with you. I think we've got a lot of things in the future to do together, and I'm anxious to see that happen. I also want to thank the Homeless Work Group for all the hard work they've done and the accomplishments they've succeeded in. Also, Drew and Stephanie, your hard work and staff. It got this ball rolling, and now we're continuing on. Without your hard work and input and the committee, none of this, well, some of it might have been done, but not to the degree it has been, and it's been a success in helping resolve this issue. I also want to thank Roger and Drew and Nicole for going to the LOC conference and representing the city of Goose Bay. And those are the end of my comments this evening. Thank you. Oh, and Rob, again, thank you for filling in. You do an excellent job.
Thank you, Mayor. Stephanie?
Just want to say how much I appreciate Andrew Brainerd from the Confederated Tribes coming to read our proclamation today. Clearly, you could see the emotion, and I hope that that came across online. It was a big day, and he said it. And then on to a few other things. I just want to remind folks that the farmers market, this is the last month, so that will end on the last Friday of the month, and then followed up by trick or treat in downtown. But first, this weekend, Rotary will be conducting the downtown Coos Bay Wine Walk. So be sure to, if you're wanting to attend that, there's lots of our merchants downtown that will give you a tour of their facilities and the items and products that they sell. And Christmas is coming up, so it's a good way to take a glance at maybe some things that you might be able to check off your list for gifts. And then also this weekend on Saturday, the speeders will be in town. If everybody knows what those are those little motor rail cars that used to check the lines across the country. They'll be arriving in town on Friday afternoon. I think they usually stay at the Red Lion, so you'll see them lined up on the track. Those folks, Bill and Nancy Andrews, coordinate that effort, and it is the Toy Express this time of year, which officially kicks off the collection effort for the Bus Jam Toy and Food Drive. And I was going to welcome Chelsea to the city, but also Harper. You know, I know you're a busy guy, but we know how great the group is at getting things done, and we're going to need your help in helping the city bring back the trophy this year from the city of North Bend. So we could use your help if you'd like to stop by and see what that's all about. We'll need some help unloading the rail cars, and Rotary will then take that and store that until Collection Day, which is the first Saturday in December, and we will load the buses here at the Bi-Mart in Coos Bay, North Bend, as well as Bandon US Cellular. So if you get a chance and the folks out there have children, it's amazing to see these little cars that have been perfectly restored and run the track. They go about 20 miles an hour. It's just really cool. They'll be at the boardwalk around rail time 2 to 2:30, possibly 2:45. So we'll get to visit while we're waiting for them. So I hope to see everybody out this weekend and kick off the Bus Jam Toy and Food Drive.
Thank you, Stephanie. I just have a few items. First thing is I have the library numbers for August. For the month of August, there were 18,835 items checked out at the Coos Bay Library, and only 508 of those were digital downloads. They had total monthly visits of 6,132, and their program attendance was 746. So every time I see these numbers, I'm still taken aback by people that are suggesting that libraries aren't relevant, because it is very much relevant in our community. And then the next thing is I wanted to thank Harper for reaching out to us. I've really missed the Key Club presentations every other Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to seeing those again. And then lastly, not lastly, but I also wanted to welcome Chelsea. I look forward to working with you in the future. And now, lastly, I just want to echo the comments of everybody else and thank Stephanie and Drew for their work on the homeless work group. The list of accomplishments is impressive, and I just hope that we can continue on with those accomplishments. And with that, I will adjourn the City Council meeting. Thank you.